Well, what's up, everybody? Let's do my mic check here. Make sure that's good. We're here on a Friday. I don't usually do anything on Fridays, so it'll be interesting to see who shows up. I'll say do anything. Of course, I do stuff, but it's not usually me getting on live, so no idea who's going to come along. But today we're going to talk about mate value and some important concepts about mate value. I'm going to give a about 30 more seconds for people to get on. But if you have any questions or anything, throw them in the chats. Fridays are a good day for me just to answer your questions. Those supers and stuff help me notice them, but it's not even about the money. It's really just about the algorithms. So, so yeah, those things will be helpful. And speaking of helpful, I have a new channel because as you guys know, the algorithms have not been friendly to my channel. So I opened up a new one. So what I need you guys to do when you watch this is you can go right now and do it and come back, right? But go over there because there's a link in the description of this video. I have a link to a really good video on cheating that's out, on signs of cheating. Okay. Go over there, click that link, and just go on the channel, click the subscribe button, then come on back. All right. So if you haven't done that yet, go over there, hit that subscribe, come back. I got to hit 1,000 on the other, 1,000 subscribers on the other channel in order for the algorithms to recognize that it's a channel. All right. The video is doing really well though. Got a ton of good feedback on it. And that lead us to a couple of more announcements before we get into the topic. I do have a live event in a course that's coming out here, right? In a couple weeks, I'm going to close enrollment. I'll be closing enrollment on the 31st. We are also looking at the enrollment period will actually be 5 days, like that Monday before New Year's Eve, and I'll close it like right around noon on New Year's Eve. All right, so that's going to be the enrollment period. Right now, it's pre-enrollment period. All that means is that you can just get in it at a lower price. All right. So if you go in there, get in it on a lower price. Thanks, guys. I see you in the chats. Thank you. I appreciate doing that for me on the other channel. What is the course about? All right. I had to take a redirect because we're going to do that mindset, the Alpha Mindset Summit, but it's going to be a little delayed. I'm going to do that. Open that up for enrollment in January, and we're doing this instead first. And what this is instead is a cheat proof your relationship course, basically. Now, a lot of you guys are like, well, I don't need a cheat proof my relationship course. Like, if she's cheating, I'm just going to dump her. Of course, obviously. All right. But the thing is, you got, um, you're doing it though. You're making it work. You don't need to like watch the other one. That's what you're doing. But anyway, but, but yeah, so the thing is though, okay, it's not just about cheating, although it is about that and not being cheated on. That's like the kind of the focal point, but it's about boundaries. It's about how to set boundaries and how to enforce boundaries in a way that's healthy and keeps your relationship together and keeps it away from toxicity. So even if you're not in a relationship right now, you're going to be dating women at some point. Hopefully you are. And this boundary enforcement thing happens early on. And a lot of guys fail at the boundary enforcement part of their relationships. They either go a little bit too draconian, they get a little bit too, you know, vigilant with their boundary stuff and their reaction, usually like their reactions to it. And they can react in ways that make them look toxic or make them look insecure or make them look like, that crazy irrational red pill guy, right? Whatever it may be. And it pushes girls away who just don't understand it, and these are girls who might be good candidates for being a long-term dating partner, even in a relationship, but they've been conditioned the wrong way. They don't understand it. And part of leading, okay, is to be able to communicate these things in a way that the other person can understand. So if she doesn't have a background because, no good women out there, blah, 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 right? That's part of your responsibility is to be able to communicate it in a way that she understands, despite the fact that her background has socially conditioned her in another way. Now, if it doesn't work and she's just not capable after you doing all the right things, that's okay. You know you did the right things. But the boundary enforcement is so critical, because without knowing how to do that early on and throughout the life of a relationship, this is what leads to girls losing their attraction, losing their desire, and then favoring or being attracted to another guy in monkey branching, or whether they cheat or whether they just break up with you in monkey branch. The result's the same. She's jumping on another dude, and she is not picking you, and that's not good. And so that course is going to talk about all those things. And it came about because a lot of guys were asking me about it, asking me about these scenarios that they're caught in. And I'm just thinking, like, dude, if you knew how to set boundaries better and you know how to enforce them better, you wouldn't even be in this circumstance to begin with. Now, there's also guys, though, too, who are in the circumstance and they're curious. They think their chicks maybe doing some of the wrong things because she is, you know, doing different behaviors that makes him think, man, like, I wonder if she's cheating on me, or, am I insecure? Maybe she's not. Maybe it's me. Then there's retroactive jealousy. Link to the course is in the description of the video. So and it's also in the description of pinned in the comments section of the new video, because you can tell YouTube won't let me put links in the channel yet. That's how new the channel is. And so you can find it one way or the other. I do have a free guide. If you get on my email list newsletter, if you're already on it, I'm going to resend it. And it's a cheat proof guide, which is good. But here's the thing about it. There's actually 7 phases of cheating, more or less. It's not till phase 6 where she's banging another dude. And then phase 7 is the ongoing affair, right? So, like, there's 5 things that happened before it gets that point of no return. And your girl might be stepping out of bounds and doing some things, and she might not be on stage 6 where she's actually taking another D. She could be, somewhere between stage 1 to 5. And that's where you can catch it with your boundaries and that enforcement and addressing things. And also the desire aspect of your relationship, and like pull her back in through desire and game and attraction. So that's all the stuff in that course. It's a good course, 27 modules. There's a lot of material there on how to do this properly and how to handle women in wherever she is in these phases. And if she did cheat on you, or that's what you find out, how to handle that ending that relationship appropriately, or how to handle that situation appropriately. And then in January, I'm going to do live Zoom calls for the people in that course to address your personal issues and things and questions you might have. Questions in general, but also like your personal situation. I can coach you through stuff. And if you have been through a relationship in the past that you haven't quite unraveled or figured out, and you want to bring that up, that's cool too. That'll help you kind of overcome those things. So anyway, yeah, links in the description to the page to get all that stuff in the description of this video, and you should be able to get it there. If you're having trouble, though, let me know. Okay. But I like to see you guys, away from the public eye, behind that paywall where I can say things that are very useful and pragmatic, and we don't have to worry about censorship, right? All right, so cool. Let's get into the topic now. Change this around here. We're gonna go to slides. Oh, the hell's going on? Google Slides. Wait, I want to share my screen. All right, let's share the screen. All right. Okay. Hey, look at me. Okay, we're going to go over here. All right. So, the law of equal or greater mate value. Okay. When a man loses his woman, he can always find another. Ugh, that looks like shit, doesn't it? Oh, well, why don't we slideshow it? All right. The law of equal or greater mate value. When a man loses his woman, he can always find another of equal or greater mate value, provided he hasn't declined in his own mate value. This may sound um, obvious, maybe, all right, but it's not. It's not that obvious to a lot of guys, actually, and that's why I think we should break this down. And it doesn't work the same way for a woman. And that's the other part of this. All right. So we as men have the opportunity, and I'm not saying we always do, but we have the opportunity to win in this mate value game. Not that we're in a contest with women or we're in a contest with somebody else, but just in your own life, right? You can win this game and you have more opportunity to do this as a man than a woman has, right? And winning this contest, when I say mate value, I'm saying having the kinds of relationships you want. If we're talking about just getting laid, let's say tonight on a Friday night, yes, a woman of lower sexual market value than you is going to have more sexual opportunity than you will as a man of higher sexual market value. We know that there's enough thirsty dudes wanting to, shove their thingies in her, right? That's not an accomplishment, and that's not leading to her overall happiness, right? Necessarily, right? That's not really her mating goal, and probably not even your mating goal. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, maybe getting laid by a bunch of women is part of a mating goal, but at some point, usually you want to get better women, and usually you want to have experiences and relationships and stuff like that. I mean, that's most dudes, right? Most dudes. Now, a lot of you who haven't solved the get the girl part, that's probably, and you're not getting laid. Yeah, that's going to be your hyper focus. But trust me when I say this, once once you can get laid and you get laid by hot women and it's not a big deal for you anymore, you start looking for something a little bit better. And that's where when I'm talking about this law here, we're talking about this in terms of relationships. All right. And we're not talking about short term things either. You can get, with good game and circumstance, you can get sexual opportunity with a girl that's, let's say, higher than your mate value as a guy for a night. But it's not like really necessarily she's going to stick around in a relationship. Right. And so as men, we generally will not keep or maintain a woman that is a higher mate value than us. She can look better than we are, but as men, our mate value goes far beyond looks. Whereas women, it's tends to be more about looks than the other qualities. Not saying the other qualities aren't important, but looks play a much larger role. So let's look at examples here to sort of illustrate this point. All right. So let's say you got a man and a woman. Let's pretend just for, that they're 28 years old, same age, let's say, just to keep it real or whatever, keep it for the example. Um, Things go south and they divorce at 36. Very common scenario, right? The common age of getting married is 28. 7 to 8 years later, between like 7 and 10 years later, is usually when divorce happens. This is, and most people get divorced. So this is pretty common scenario for most people. And when they get married at 28, usually a lot of times the guy's older, but I mean, they could be around the same age, right? So let's just look at this. Let's look at the prognosis here for the man, okay? And his mate value. So from 28 to 36, his mate value is actually increased. It's gotten higher. Okay. His looks don't decline. Your looks decline between 28 and 36 when you don't take care of yourself. That's the thing. But you don't get age related decline. We're talking in general, not somebody who gets gets caught in a fire and is now disfigured for his life, right? I mean, in generally speaking, okay, your looks don't decline as a man. And if anything, actually, what I found in my personal experience is I got more masculine. Even from 36 to now, I got more masculine features because I looked young when I was young. And so I actually increased in looks between 28 to 36. And your gym activity, how you take care of yourself, you get more jacked, you get more muscle symmetry and musculature and more mature muscles, and you can have a more mature, sexy, masculine look, and you maintain that wardrobe and your social awareness. You get hotter between 28 and 36 as a guy if you know what you're doing, okay? And this is every guy has this opportunity, just because most guys don't take the opportunity, usually because they're saddled in this marriage that this guy was in here, and they let themselves decline in the marriage, which is a detriment to his woman and a detriment to himself. But let's say he doesn't do that, he increases in the looks department. If he's doing the right thing and not, smoking amphetamines off in a trailer somewhere, his money should be increasing. His assets should be increasing. His status should be increasing. And if he's not closing himself off, his social skills should be increasing as well. He should be getting more mature and in relationship skills as well if he's not letting himself decline, right? So this guy has an opportunity to be a higher value, higher mate value between 28 and 36, significantly higher, in fact. And so when this divorce happens, if it, happens, the things go south, and it's arguable that if he didn't decline in these other areas, maybe the divorce wouldn't happen. But maybe he initiates the divorce too, right? Like, who knows? We're not saying why the divorce happens. But when this breakup or divorce happens, this guy here probably has a prognosis of getting a new mate of at least just as good as the wife he just lost, if not better than her. And chances are the new girl will be a lot better. And I see this happen all the time. Here, I'll stop sharing for a second. I see this happen all the time when, oh God, I don't know how to work computers. I see this happen. Oh, shit. I'm now seeing in my comments. Stop watching this live stream and find love. No, thank you, 69 mega. All right. I don't know. Yeah, I can't just go and make you an admin right now because I'll have to do it after the stream. Because if I do that now, it's going to take me like 15 minutes and people are going to be bored and want to start a barrel instead of listen to me. All right. So, at any rate, yeah. So when you look at the stuff, right, it's like the guy in those years has a better prognosis ahead of him, not the girl. The girl is not, and I'll get into that, her slide in a second. All right. I was gonna make a point and I got distracted. Well, whatever. Let's just go back. Here. Yeah. So anyway, probably shouldn't switch things around because I'm too. All right. Here we go. So back to looking at this. Let's look at the woman here for a second, right? The woman's looks decline exponentially from 28 to 36. There's a lot of hot 36-year-old women out there. I am not slamming on 36-year-old women. And there's a lot of 36, 46, even 50 something. Yeah, I can just keep going. It's not like there are not valuable women in all age categories. So I need to say that as a caveat. Okay. You guys can have your own opinions in the chat. I'm going to say that there are hot women who are worth a lot of every age category. But if we're going to look at, though, the reality of things, is that even that hot woman at 36, right, unless she was like obese and had physical things and wasn't taking care of herself at 28 and then went to the gym, okay, shut your alarm off. Sounds like I'm in the hood. Just my neighbor letting her alarm go off. I don't know if you guys could hear that in the background or if my mic did a good job. But anyway, yeah, so her looks decline exponentially. Even if she is going to the gym and taking care of herself, she can be hot at 36. But age-related decline for a woman affects her looks. It's just a reality of it. And her looks and her youthfulness and that appearance and her body weight is a major factor. That's like the main factor for attractiveness for a guy. It's going to start there, and then it's going to be how she makes him feel with her feminine behavior, right? And her sexual availability will tie into that feminine behavior and her sexual enthusiasm. Okay, these are what make a guy attracted to a woman. So I'm not talking about the woman's value at her job. For example, let's say she's an accountant, like, or she's a paralegal or something, or she's, she could be the most valuable person, in that like really high value for that environment and that job, but she's not mating with any of those people. So if we're talking about her mate value, all right, so where women get confused, um, yeah, her looks decline. So where the guy increased, her looks went down. Now, let's say she's in that cool job that she has, and she's super valuable there, and she increases her financial net worth. And let's say she divorces that guy and takes half of his crap, and then her financial net worth now really goes up because he let's say he built a lot of that financial net worth, and now she gets half of it. So she increases her financial net worth, by leaving the relationship. But guess what? It does nothing for sexual market value. It's nearly irrelevant. Like what a woman accomplishes professionally, what a woman makes in terms of money, they don't become relevant till later. And I'll show you that slide. All right. It's just not an issue. A guy does not want to bang her. As I've said this to my female clients, a guy does not want to fuck your PhD. He doesn't want to fuck your 6-figure salary. I mean, it's nice that you have those things. Sure. That's great. It's not to say those things are not worth celebrating, but it's not going to make the dude one way or the other care about being in a relationship with you. This part here, what you look like, sexual availability, and feminine behavior, that's where it's at, right? Let's say she has some kids. Well, those kids are a greater detriment to her success, especially if she has custody. Um, Kids for a guy is not a positive for his success either. When it comes to mate value and meeting other mates when you're single, children are a negative, whether you're the guy or the woman. But a lot of women will see it as a positive in a sense and twist it around when they're really attracted to the guy. And of course, we see men doing that too. We can reserve our opinions for those about those men, but we see men going, I'll marry this girl who's a single mommy and be daddy. I think that sounds great. Okay. Though those situations exist initially, at least in the dating market, kids are a detriment to everybody's success in that. Not a detriment. That's not a negative. We'll say a negative. But for men, it's a much smaller negative, right? Usually the kids are split custody or custody of the woman. So that's not a non-issue for that guy's dating life. If the guy does have custody, it's just the issue of how our brains are wired and how we look at, the opposite sex. Women are less threatened from a mating perspective with a guy who's had kids with other women versus a woman who's had kids with other men, right? And so that's just it. And that's our brain wiring. We can't change that. It's the way it is. And so she has kids from that relationship, greater detriment. So her value is not increased by her financial worth going up, if it did at all. Her mate values decreased a lot due to her looks, and any children into the picture are going to decrease that mate value even more. And she can improve her relationship skills to try to offset age related decline, though. That is something she can do at this phase. So like a girl who is 35 years old, who knows how to be a good partner to somebody, is potentially going to win, in terms of, mating opportunities, in relationship opportunities. She will win over a girl who's, let's say, younger, but doesn't have those skills. All right. Especially if she took care of herself, goes to the gym, if she is in like really good shape, because and so this is where it's not like a death sentence for a woman necessarily, because people in the West, especially, don't take care of their physical health and don't take care of their physique. So, a lot of women are overweight, even in their 20s and their whatever. So she could just like be in shape and be hot as she can be, she's still going to be hot at 35, 36, and then improve relationship skills, meaning communication and, being a good partner, being feminine, right? All that stuff. She can improve those things and she'll be, have a greater prognosis for success than in comparison to other women. However, in comparison to herself, her hotter version of herself, possibly, maybe not. That's hard to say. That's much harder for her than the guy. And for her, like, how many women actually improve on these skills? I mean, women listening to my channel, this is the secret. Here's the gold standard for you. Here's how you win despite some of your previous errors and mistakes and mate choice and how you used to behave and all these things. Is a woman who comes to my channel to listen. There are a few, believe it or not. You work on your physical health and beauty and appearance, and you work on your relationship skills, the communication, not being a bitch, right? Not being difficult to be around, being feminine, being attractive, being sexually available, doing things for a guy. That's how you overcome some of this stuff, or at least, and are able to meet other dudes. Right, of greater value. But generally speaking, though, most women don't do that. So that woman who from 28 to 36, she has a less of a prognosis of doing well. You know what I mean? She's more than likely not going to do well. Oh shit, how do I remove that? Right? Okay, so she's more likely not going to do well. I'm gonna check my super chat, might check my chats here for a minute. But yeah, she's more likely not going to do well. You know what I mean? In comparison to the dude. And we're going to get into what it looks like even more so going forward, right? And so the guy's pregnant. Now, let's say the guy has let himself go and got, just destroyed in that relationship. He was following that narrative, you know what I mean? The societal narrative, and he was sacrificing himself for the relationship, and that included his physical health, his appearance, and everything about himself. And then she leaves him, right? Because he's unattractive. So let's say that happened to that guy. Well, shit, that guy can come to somebody like me, for example, get some coaching on figuring stuff out, game, appearance, all that stuff. Go to the gym, go to the jujitsu place, go to, learn some combat sports. He can, in a year, that, let's say, 36-year-old divorced guy who at that point, what happened was, remember the law. So what happened was his mate value declined. So when that woman left, she declined too. But when she left, his prognosis might not be on the day that she left for him to find a woman of equal or greater value. But he spends a year working on himself. He can exponentially change that answer for himself, right? Like him finding someone much better than who walked out the door, is his prognosis for that is almost 100%. Like he almost 100% will do better if he just makes himself to the level he was at 28 years old. And in theory, it's not that hard for him to make himself like that. You know what I mean? And so let's see here. It's like, as a woman, if you happen to keep living up to a certain age, all doing them, unless you find a guy, that's a good dude and a good partner, right? And this is why, see, unfortunately, society has trained women to devalue men. I'm not saying, I think T Diamond's a woman here, so I'm not saying you, okay? But society, I'm not saying you do that, but society has trained everybody, trained women to devalue men and to make, her believe like she's got endless amounts of choices. And she really doesn't. And so I'm not saying this like to shit all over women. I'm saying this with compassion. It is harder. It's much harder for a woman as she ages. Isn't it possible? No, it's not. But it's much more difficult. And I see a lot of guys will complain of injustices on the internet and everything. But really though, you guys, we have better opportunities provided we work on stuff ourselves and don't feel sorry for ourselves about it, right? Um, so getting back to the slides here, it isn't doom and gloom for women, but I told you like already, like I have females that I know, women friends, if you will, who are in their 40s who are hot. Like they're hot. Like if I was a single guy and if things were, you know, different for some reason as a guy in my 40s, I would so hook up with them. And if they were really cool, I would consider being in a relationship with them. It wouldn't matter to me. They could snag me. And I consider myself, I check all the blocks as the high value guy. All right. And so that it's not impossible for a woman, but it does get decreasingly more difficult or increasingly more difficult as she ages. You know what I mean? Whereas a guy stave off that difficulty for a long time. So going back to this, right? So now let's look at a man from age 36 to 46, right? And so he gets a little bit of age related decline here now. His body starts showing wear and tear. I'll tell you from experience, but here's the thing about this. There's a lot of healthy living stuff as a man you can do that stave that off really well. I mean, for me, for example, I used to just drink. I'm not alcoholic, but I just drank like all the time. Like, I don't know, it was, when I wasn't on deployment or wasn't stuff, yeah, I'm a bourbon guy. I love it. Just a couple, I have a couple glasses of bourbon almost every night. After, I noticed the last few years that was compromising my health as a man, where it was in my 20s, it wouldn't have compromised my health at all. The reason is because of growth. Well, I don't say at all. All right. But it didn't seem to compromise my health, whereas now it does. Why is that? Well, because I'm on a decline now in terms of aging. And so my growth hormone levels are really important. And things like alcohol compromise my growth hormone levels, is one reason. There are other reasons. All I did was cut alcohol out of my life. I'm not saying I'll never drink, like I enjoy bourbon and maybe, but I'm now down to what I imagine might be, a once or twice a year scenario for me. It's just not useful in my life anymore. I drink kombucha. It's a health drink, right? Instead, and I'll have a cigar with that. And so you make simple, small changes. All of a sudden, that age-related decline, it really isn't that much of a factor. And that this does depend on genetics. Some hair loss will usually happen for a lot of guys around here. There's stuff that happens. So yes, that does, as a man, cause some of your SMV to decline. But what we're lucky as men is that looks are not the only factor. Our finances, assets, or status should be improving dramatically from 36 to 46 if we're doing the right things. Now, if you're not doing if you're 40 years old and you're struggling in this area, well, now an area that you need to focus on and improve on, right? Instead of worrying about your toxic girlfriend or your, whatever. Like this is the area you really need to double and triple down on your efforts, on some of these areas that should be improving for your age level if they're not. Your social and relationship skills and your maturity and your emotional control, all those things should be improving. Hell, even your sex skills should be improving. That sex is like the number one thing that you can improve and dramatically change your results. Let me just tell you, when you're banging a girl the right way and the way that she's not experienced really before and she's very happy with it doesn't, her likelihood of wanting to leave and all that is pretty low. You got a lot more room for some SMV decline if you make her feel good in the bedroom. All right. But let's look at women now. Okay. Women from 36 to 46, age related decline accelerates a lot. All right. Like, it didn't decline that accelerated of a rate. It was definitely noticeable from 28 to 36. 36 to 46, dude, there's a clear difference with most women. There are some women who are genetically very gifted, but most women they notice that decline. And even the ones that are genetically gifted notice the decline. They're just able to appear out in public because they take care of themselves in good ways, right? They can, stave off that appearance of decline, but they'll tell you, that even just on every level, right? The age really hits a woman a lot harder in terms of her sexual market value, right? Once again, finances, asset status, they're nearly irrelevant. So this guy over here, he increases his value because he improves every area of his life, and that sort of negates some of the age related decline. Like I'll tell you, I've had some age related decline in the last 10 years, but I was in like the top 1% of the military in terms of physical fitness. Okay. When you look at statistics and capabilities, and I was, spent time in the special operations area. I was like, I'm like professional at one time, was like professional athlete level. So my decline still doesn't put me as low as some of your most of your 20-year-olds out there. I'm still more physically capable and healthier than most of your 20 something year olds, even though I declined by my level from 35 to now, right? 36, whatever, to now. And so that decline is a little bit it's a little bit relevant to where you were at before, but you can still maintain a lot. And then if you improve all these other areas, like a girl doesn't care or notice that my 2 mile run time is declined. You know what I mean? But she wouldn't notice or care about that. The difference between me, you know, 10, 15 years ago and doing a 2 mile run a lot faster than I would do it now. She's not noticing or caring about that. So the decline that I've experienced a little bit, and even like a little bit of decline and some looks, like maybe some, like my hair's thinned a bit. I still got my full head of hair, but it's just a little bit of thin, like it's a little thinner. I used to have really thick curly hair. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? The rest of the stuff improves. I'm able, I have more access now. I'm not single, but if I were single, and I wasn't too long ago, I was single like not too long ago, I had more access to much better looking women, higher SMV women than I ever had my whole life in my 40s. All right. That's not happening to a woman. All right. A woman is now in big trouble if she's here. All right. It's not, I hate to say doom and gloom for a woman, but there's things she can do, but this is just now where she's at. You have it better as a guy at this stage. Notice I didn't put 21 to 28 as a slide, but we know women had it better from 21 and 28 than most guys. Most women had it better than most guys in the same age area. That being said, though, that's not relationship age for most people. Like most people are not getting in relationships or trying. When I say relationships, I mean like marriage, like they're not thinking like long term till death do us part. You know what I mean? That those kinds of relationships for most people nowadays in 2022, that's not really looked at until she's in her late 20s. That's when she starts looking at that stuff. And guys are mainly looking for sexual opportunity, will settle into a relationship with that's the best opportunity for them. If they're, running through girls at the at their frat party that they have, and they invite a bunch of girls, and that's their lifestyle. They're being the F boys or whatever, right? If that's the guy, like, I mean, he's probably not very relationship minded. So it's not till about 28 years old or so that women and men start really thinking more about long term. So I didn't even include that slide. A woman's market value is higher, but it's during a time when most people, including yourself, are not thinking relationships. And that's also a problem. It's a problem for women. Let's continue. Man, 46 to 56, he's going to get the age related decline accelerates. That's just a fact of life. But he still should be improving his status, finances, and assets. His relationship skills and social skills, though, for most men will start to decline at this point because now you run into generational gaps. So I have a girlfriend that's 20 years younger than me. That there is a generational gap with some things, and it's comical right now. But if I were, in my 50s, that would probably start to be less attractive. You know what I mean? And so you start to run, you do run into some decline here, but how much is it, right? How much of a decline is it really in comparison to a woman? Her age related decline when she gets in her 50s is like, even no matter what she's doing, no matter what kind of face cream, no matter what kind of gym activity, she still needs to do that stuff because it keeps her as high as she can be. But there's nothing she can do about this decline at this point. Her financial status and all that stuff is still mainly irrelevant, and her relationship skills and social skills also usually decline because, and these are not facts that have to be true for you on the skill side of it, okay, men and women, but the reality is they're just tired and they don't want to work on shit. Women are compromised a lot, and a lot of women do not want to work on any of this stuff anyway. They want to blame other people. That's a lot of women. But when they get to be in this age category, they generally have gotten set in their ways and they're not open to change. And that makes them not a good relationship partner, quite frankly. All right. Like it's just, and they get like, they've been around the block so many times now in terms of disappointments that they're kind of like, my way or the highway, dude. Like, whatever. Like, well, you're either here or you're not here. Kind of a mindset. That is not a mindset to fall into a dude's frame and to have a good relationship with a guy. So she starts to really lose a lot in terms of even just her mental game and approach. And then we get to 60 and beyond. Yeah, of course, as a man from 60 approaching his death, whether it's next year at 61 for some guys, which would be earlier, much earlier than the life expectation today, or into his 90s, he's decelerating, right? The decline is accelerating. There's just no question. That's just a fact of life. His assets, status, and finances tend to level off. Is not true for every man, but it's true for most men. Is this they get in less of a push to want to make more money and make their mark, and they're more leveling off and trying to live their life, right? They're getting to that retirement age, and they're getting set in their ways too. So their relationship and social skills tend to level off, right? Woman 60 and beyond, well, age-related decline obviously accelerates even more so, right? Here's the bitch of it for women though. Now, at 60 and beyond, their assets and their finances are now important. They weren't important before. They were always important for a guy. Whether she can take care of herself in her old age now becomes a factor. Whether she has money, now it's a factor because a guy isn't going to want to risk his financial well-being, right? Because he's leveling off his finances. He doesn't want to risk his financial well-being by taking a risk on a woman who's not financially well off. So, I mean, women are really screwed in this now, right? They could have, built up their professional careers and their finances, early on, and it didn't matter for like their whole life. A guy didn't care about it. Now that she's older, age decline has caught up to her looks. She's probably pissed off about everything. So relationship and social skills are leveled off at this point, right? So she's not making herself better in any sense. Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, does she have enough to take care of herself? Like what? And so it's a real bitch of it. And this is why, it's much harder for women, okay, as they age and as they get older. It's just much harder for them. And we need to recognize that, right? Now, the best prognosis for a woman, really, if she could just do it the right, is a chick is in the best position when she's in her 20s to hook up with a guy of highest value. Hook up with a guy between 10 to 20 years, literally 20 years older. And notice how that is not socially acceptable by some people, but you know who those people are? Women. Women who are over 35 generally will shame guys who are with, somebody in her 20s. They'll say there's something, oh, they'll shame it. They'll even the word is infantil, whatever. I don't know. They'll even make it like he's some sort of, you know, disgusting like child predator. It's like I've gotten that. My girl is 25. And that's very normal for me. Okay. Normally dating women in their mid 20s. All right. I've gotten that, oh, I'm like a predator for doing that. It's like she's of consensual age, way above consensual age at 25. Come on, like she's been of consensual age for a while. All right, she didn't just turn that last year or something. Like, so all that is just the shaming because it's actually better for the girl. Like, let's just look at this. A girl 25, she meets up with a guy who's, let's say, 45 years old, right? Um, and that guy has increased, he's maxed all of that stuff. He is declining, but guess what? So is she. At 25 to 30, it's just little bits, but she's having to stave it off. Now, past 30, she's on a decline. But who else is on a decline? So is she. Right? And so see now, because of the age related difference, okay. And so yeah, my mom had a problem with me dating a 28-year-old when I was 20. But yeah, she had that problem because it's funny, like when here's the thing, like it's women think this way because they're trying to, it's intrasexual competition. They're trying to, even though your mom's not trying to compete with you in the sexual marketplace, it's like that brain goes, hey, like you don't want to date. It's like they want to know that they have the option for older guys. You know what I mean? It's like the 36-year-old that shames me for dating a 25-year-old is angry because a guy of my value isn't interested in her. Now, what she ignores, of course, is the fact that my lack of interest in her has nothing to do with her age. It has to do with her taking care of herself. It has to do, that starts there. What does she look like? Am I attracted to her? And then how's the sex, And what's that like? What about how's her mindset and approach towards that stuff? And then how about is she feminine? And is she a good complement to my life? Like all these things that I can lead a 25-year-old to do. And she's much more fun to be around. If I'm dealing with a 36-year-old woman who's bitching and saying, I'm a bad person for dating younger, that woman is not very fun to hang out with. Like she's just simply not fun to be around. You know what I mean? And so, like, why would I go with this 36, 40-year-old woman that's not fun to be around in favor of a 22, 25, 28-year-old woman who's much more fun to be around? And when you have choices with women, a guy in my position has a lot of choice with women. All right. And some of you guys listening, you need to, you know, maybe increase your choices. I'm helping you with that. That's why I have these courses and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, you know what I mean? It's you increase your choices by making yourself a better relationship partner, being a better communicator. That stuff doesn't get talked about as much, but it's really important. And knowing how to lead in a relationship, right? Knowing how to select good women, knowing how to have good sex with them, how to provide that lead in the bedroom, right? Then, of course, having your status, your finances, and all those things squared away as much as possible. These are all what lead you to having nothing but options. Whereas those things won't necessarily lead the average woman to having those options. Now, I'm not saying that to shame women here. All right. There are things a woman can do. DM me if you're struggling and you're a woman. Okay. Like seriously, because I'm here to help you too. It's just I'm saying this because here's what tends to happen. That guy who was 36 in that scenario who lost that woman into a relationship, he doesn't realize that he can find another one of equal or greater value. He doesn't really even logically think that because he had been brainwashed in the whole process of that relationship that, she's better than he is. That's the big trick, the big fleecing. You know what I mean? is that he is brainwashed to thinking that he's not good enough to keep this woman who left. And he might have declined and he might not be. But here's the thing, that 36-year-old guy can, in a year and a half, be better than he was. And then he will have access to better women just like that. And so how that law works and applies to men. So if I'm 80 years old, okay, and I lose my partner somehow, let's say my girl, let's say everything works awesome and I'm, approaching 80 and she's approaching 60. And then all of a sudden, she gets taken by a terrible accident or disease or something, right? So here I am approaching 80, right? If my value's up, believe it or not, do you think I can? Yeah, I can't find if my value didn't decline, right, from where she was at and where I was at. If my value stayed up, if not, I'm not talking about like I'd want to replace my girlfriend or something, but let's say I want to replace or whatever. What do I have access to? Equal or greater value? Equal or greater value than my partner that I lost. Because if my value didn't decline, and because women are hypergamous, I have access to replacement. Now, here's the thing on this. You can't replace a human being, all right? The emotional connection and the bond that you have is what keeps her around. The reason why I would stick with my girlfriend is because of the bond we have. It's not because of her mate value. All right. And that's what protects women from being kicked to the curb or lost in a relationship, is the bond. And of course, a lot of women don't understand that. They don't realize that a guy will stick with you even as your mate value declines, and he has the marriage goggles. He will see you just as pretty as you were when he first met you, when he has those goggles on, when he is happy with you and has the emotional bond. That's what the interesting thing of these neurochemicals do to a man, right? But as soon as he doesn't have that neurochemical connection, that gets broken, he'll see that girl for what she is, which is older and not as attractive as other options he has. And so that's the thing, right? Is that's why women, if they want to win in this, it's about the emotional connection. The emotional connection is what's going to cause a guy to stick around. I don't care how alpha the guy is; it doesn't matter. He's not going to kick a girl to the curb that he cares about. That's the reality of it. You know what I mean? That he really cares about. And so, if a woman knows how to show up and be that woman, she's not getting discarded. Now, of course, her letting her body go and not being sexually available, right? Are those demonstrations of care for your partner? No, it's not. And that's why guys become unattracted. It's the aspect of course, them doing that, that the lack of attraction from her not taking care of herself is just sort of, any guy would say she's less attractive, 50 pounds heavier, right? But to the guy, to that husband, the fact that his wife would get 50 pounds heavier and disregard that sexual bond and relationship and now want to be pretty and attractive for him, that's what makes it even more unattractive. That's what makes the guy go, "Fuck, what am I got myself into?" You know what I mean? And even then, some guys will, still have that emotional attachment. So what is the practicality here? And why do I think this is so important, this little law? It's important for you guys to realize that if you keep your value up, you will always have options. And this means that you're not going to be in a scarcity mindset in your own relationships. That means that you are there because you want to be there with the woman that you're with, not because you have to be. And that's a huge thing. That helps you hold your frame. That feels better to her. No woman wants you with her because you have to be, because you can't find anybody better. That's a shitty reason to be with her. The reason for you being with her is because you love her. You have the emotional connection and you care. Like, you just feel good when you're around her, like all this stuff, right? It's how you feel and you want to be there. I would rather be with her right now than, I don't know, you know, talking to some random 304s right now, right? That feels better to her, trust me, than, well, I'm older now, or I've gotten heavier, or whatever. I just, I'm not as good as I used to be. So, that's my woman now because I don't want to try to I couldn't do better. Like, that's not attractive. That's actually not even honoring what she brings to the table. You know what I mean? And it's just not even like she doesn't look at that as attractive, put it like that. And so it makes you stronger in your relationships to know you could exit if you wanted to. You could replace, you could find someone of equal or greater value because your value hasn't declined, but you choose not to because you like her. And that's why you keep her, because you like her, you care about her. That is much more valuable. And it puts you in a mindset of not being in a scarcity where you're stalking and chasing and freaking out and not either not having boundaries like you should, getting walked all over, like putting up with disrespect, putting up with shitty behavior, or being hypersensitive about behavior. That's the other side of it. Some of you guys, you read into this content and you become hypersensitive, and now you're trying to, be that toxic partner, right? He's freaking out over every little thing she does. Either one of those things, both of those things come from scarcity, or you're just not trying. You don't care. You don't want to court or be around your partner anymore, right? Like you're not trying to seduce your partner anymore because I've been married 7 years, blah, blah, blah. You've gotten complacent. That's usually what happens to most guys. But all of that shit is an ego protection anyway. You know what I mean? Guys ego protect like that because they really don't believe that they could, go out. I mean, they may be able to logically say it to ego protect further, but they really don't believe that they could go out and find somebody of equal or greater value. So they don't want to face that. And they don't want to face that. They usually, guys who are complacent, they don't want to face the fact that truthfully they believe that their girl is better than they are. And so they don't want to face that either. So they pull off. And this is damaging to the woman. And it also, puts her in a place of feeling less. It actually puts her in a place where if she might be that 8, he's a 6, and she feels reduced and she's trying to qualify to him more, at least for a while. And then that gets boring and old, and she realizes her made value, and then she looks to leave that relationship. So most guys lose their relationships because they stop trying, they stop courting, they're not attractive, and they stop trying to be attractive, all of those things. But anyways, these are all products of not really understanding this in one way or another. They're not looking at the fact that if you keep your value up as a man, you always can replace somebody. And those of you guys who are stuck on your one-itis, stuck on some girl that broke up with you or whatever, cheated on you, and you can't seem to get over it, there's things to do, to make yourself so you can get over it, and to really internalize or recognize this universal law here, which is that when a man loses a woman, he can always find another of greater or equal mate value, provided that he hasn't declined in his own value. That is a fact. It's a law, and it doesn't quite work that the same for women. It just doesn't apply in the same way. Not doom and gloom for women, for my female listeners here. Okay. There's things you can do. Okay. But it's harder. And when you lose that guy, when a woman loses a guy of high value, even if her value hasn't declined, that, even if it hasn't declined, she might not find a guy of greater equal value. And she might not be able to stave off the decline. She might be declining and not be able to recover from that, is really the point. You know what I mean? And then the other part too is like, okay, in that scenario, if I'm 80 and I lose my partner who's, 60, well, it's her value at 60 for me. It's not her value at like 20 something when I met her. You know what I mean? But for women are hypergamous. And so if a woman's in her 50s, the best she can do in her 50s probably wasn't the best that she could do when she was 28. And then she'll always have a reduced, emotional response there and connection there, more than likely, right? To her partner, unless of course that guy is higher value than the other person. But if she had the most likely scenario for most women is they lost their opportunities with the highest value men that they've been with in their 20s, right? And then they're trying to make up for that in their 40s and they can't. But we're a guys, we're stupid, right? That's okay. It works in our advantage in the sexual marketplace. The way our neurochemicals work is we put the marriage goggles on. We'll see a girl the same way that we did when she was the most attractive to us for a while, until, of course, it becomes apparent that her care for us isn't the same, And so if you're going through a breakup or if you've gone through that, if you got that one-itis, stop it. If you're in that relationship and you're worried about your mate value, or you're worried about her leaving you or whatever, just and you're hypersensitive about stuff, stop it. Okay. You got to recognize that you always have if your value is, if you're working on yourself like you're supposed to as a man, you always have other opportunity and they're not going to be less than what you have. All right. So now that you understand that, get your confidence back, you have your power back. All right. Look at your situation. What are you going to do? I'll double back around why I think this is so important. You guys in relationships, setting those boundaries in a healthy, calibrated way so that cheating doesn't happen for yourself. So you don't screw your own relationship up and go cheat, but also for her. So she's not doing it to you, or just doing the behaviors that lead to it, which are still bad for a relationship, even if she doesn't have sex with somebody else. Those other behaviors that make her unattractive, right? And that make her, less attracted to you. You need to be able to have those boundaries. You need to start with them. You need to be able to have them throughout the relationship. My course, we're going to talk all about that. All right. I got the course material and all that stuff. Click on the links. And last announcement, of course, go to my channel, my other channel, Apex Inner Game. Click the link, subscribe. All right. I got, should have about 20,000 people going over there to subscribe before the end of the week. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I should have it. What do we got here? Super chat. I get her emoji guy. You've overestimated my understanding of internet things. I don't know what that emoji guy is. What is it? I don't even know. And make another guy. I get her probably vagina. Sounds like that. You get her. I don't know. I don't even know what that emoji is, bro. And make another guy raise a child. That's funny. Okay. I think I know what you mean. All right. Look back in the chats. So good back and forth in the chats from you guys. Hopefully this is good little talk, taking it into it's a pregnant woman emoji. Thank you. It took the plumber who's older than me to tell me what the hell I was looking at. I was just like, why is that a fat chick? I don't get it. It's so stupid. I'm like, you bang fat chicks? What? Oh, you made her pregnant. So then the other guy raises it. I get it. No. Anyways, thanks, man. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys can get value from what we're talking about here, because it's really just, embracing your own masculinity and your own value as a man. Okay. In a positive way, not in a toxic way, not in a bad way, but embracing your own value and understanding that you have value and that nobody holds that over you. And if you're in a relationship, I recommend, and it's a good relationship, it's because you want to be there. It's a choice you're making and you're happy to be there, not because you have to be there. And if you lose that relationship, you always have options. All right. And just keep your value up, guys. Keep working on yourselves. I hope to see you guys in that course. It's the cost of it too is pretty low. And so compared to a lot of things I do. So hit that thing. And I hope I'll see you on some Zoom calls so we can work on that aspect. And then stay tuned, of course, for announcements on the mindset stuff. So what I want you guys to do that pay attention, we're looking for that. Set your goals up this month for next year. And then in January, when we do our Zoom, our calls for the mindset, the alpha mindset course, we'll work that stuff in next month. All right, cool. Thanks again, guys. Take care.